Tweet.
Bird, I'm a bird. Don't eat KFC. Anyways,
Fly like a bird.
It is.
What does a Blue Jay sound like?
I have no
sounds
idea.
like 14
It's like,
runs.
"Dinger!"
Dinger from Springer. We will get into the Toronto Blue Jays game, but it
Grand
is
slam
Isaac
tonight.
Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, joined by Mr. Moore for your money.
Woo!
And Chazzy, the CEO, who puts the capital E in CEO. And we have the most dashing of them all, Lane Dashing Dashco. Who needs Rudolph? But we got a lot to talk about today here. We're going to go on about the Edmonton Oilers, WTF, Carolina Hurricanes losing a big game at home, Toronto Maple Leafs, a lot of player movement, a lot of talk. What's real? What's cap? We'll talk about it. Memorial Cup's coming up, and Bri Pup's letting us know about the biggest player to watch. The NBA playoffs are underway, so Craig and Lane can tell us about it. I can listen, and Dan can be confused. We'll talk about CFL Training Camp, and of course, the Toronto Blue Jays winning a huge game. What does it mean? But let's get right into the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there has been a lot of talk. So I want to start off here right off the hop of John Tavares. I think Tavares is the most interesting topic because if you had talked to me 2 nights ago, I'm like, don't bring this guy back.
I did say that, yes.
However, he has now been rumored, speculation, not confirmed by the speculation, that he is willing to come back at half the salary or less. So if you bring him back at $5 million,
yeah, it's hard to say no.
As it's been reported, said CJ reported on Overdrive. We're not sponsored by Overdrive, but we could be. That Tavares is looking to use his leverage, believe he wants to stay in Toronto, and he's willing to make a deal that makes sense. Adds Tavares' deal will be cut in half or more.
That's
so
crazy.
He made 10.9 before. So 4.5.
Wow.
4.5 for a 37 goal scorer. I mean, it's kind of tough to say no to that.
Talk about a hometown discount.
So, Lane, how do you feel about Tavares coming back? Do you think it's enough change? Do you think we need more change and Tavares has to go? Or do you keep him if you can get him for 4.5?
Like, it's hard to, I don't know where I sit on this because I'm still kind of feeling like.
You're sitting on a chair.
Sure, I am, but I don't know. I still kind of.
Nice office chair, by the way.
That's right. Got it from IKEA, which we talked about earlier. But
whoa, meatballs!
But like, for example, I
breakfast.
Yes, that's right. Something open at 10, not 8. We learned that the hard way on the island.
Let's give Lane the floor.
Yes.
But for Tavares, I don't know. Like, of course, the number's good, and if you bring him back, you're not losing him. Where at least if we were potentially looking at losing both guys and having to replace both guys. If you bring back Tavares, you bring him back at a cheaper number, you could still get what you need out of the free agency. But at the same point, it's like, does the mix still work? And you're still bringing back part of the problem where it's like Tavares hasn't been the fix, but is it going to be enough that even if he takes $4 million, that you can bring in the guys to fix the problem when he still has been an issue and even if he plays on the third line, is he still part of the problem? I don't know. We'll have to say, but he's definitely coming back at a cheaper number, which is good. And there might still be enough cap to bring in bigger guys around him where maybe he goes on the third line and they build a better top 6 where you have more depth and you're not playing with 900K. So it's a lot to think about, but at the end of the day, I think it might be a bit more positive to bring back John Tavares.
You have to look at it, though, with John Tavares and cap space. Let's say he comes down to 4.5. Marner leaves at around 11. You have now cleared, and you add $5 million to the cap. If I'm doing my math correctly, which Dan will correct me, obviously, if I'm not, you're clearing up roughly $16 million in cap space.
You're signing a Nyes, though.
Nyes, yeah.
Okay, but you sign Nyes at, let's say,
7.5,
6.5.
He's not, Dan, get over this.
No way he's getting 6.5. He's getting close to 8, if not more.
He said here the number didn't matter. He wants to be a Maple Leaf. The number don't matter.
Okay,
too.
that's what
That's
everyone said.
That's your number, bro. Take it or leave it.
And let's
You
say
got out second round again.
Let's say aggressively 8. That's still leaving you $8 million to bring in either a
Blockbuster.
$6 million player and a $2 million player, or like two $4 million players.
Is that enough to get Ehlers?
Toronto needs more.
Oh, I would think so.
And you got to remember too, right? Hakanpää is going to be coming off the books.
What's he getting paid?
1.35. So there's another 1.35 million. Ryan Reeves is being paid 1.15. So you move on from Ryan Reeves.
I think David Kemp's gone.
Injured for the rest of his career. I don't know if David Kemp will be traded or not. It really depends on how you feel about Domi being a center.
I love David Kemp, but he's going to want to play.
Yeah, but he has a contract, Dan. That's not how that works. But what
question is Nick Robinson.
Yeah, but I was going to say, then you take Robertson and Holmberg. Problem is, though, if you lose...
Holmberg's got to go.
If you lose Robertson and Holmberg, and Marner, those are three positions you have to fill. Now, Easton Cowan, we can assume, would fill one of those positions.
Right.
So you got to fill two of those positions. And if you look there, because Hakanpää, or stands to go, Hakanpää, he wasn't playing anyways. I think you're quite happy with your sixth defense and Philip Myers as your seventh. And yeah, Lane, you are right. After Tavares leaves, would have about 22 million. You have 22 million there with these moves we're talking about. $22 million, even signing Nyes at 8. You're still
16.
roughly having anywhere from 15 to 16, depending on roughly what Nyes gets. If you can,
but that's with the JT gone. That's if he's gone.
No, that's with JT coming back.
That's if JT coming back. Because remember, JT be coming back at half the salary.
And the cap's going up.
And the cap's going up. So
and I think it would Wall too for $3 million.
You're not getting rid of Joseph Wall.
You didn't do anything except lose.
Are you still running Stollers as your pony?
Yeah, bro.
Their goalies are
I
fine.
love that man.
The goalies.
He's tall, dark, and handsome.
Anyways, enough of Dan's man crushes aside. This does give you options. Now, the bigger question is here. It looks like Tavares is. I would say it's 80% he stays, 20% he leaves.
I have a question about Mr. Tavares that I just thought of when Lane was talking. We're so focused on the number, and I get a salary cap world. We have to.
Yeah.
But instead of being so focused on the number, if he's willing to desperately be a Maple Leaf, why not focus on the contract itself? Are we talking 1 year? Are we talking 3 year? Are we waiving the no move clause? So that way, if it falls apart, can we trade him? Are we giving him a modified no move clause?
Then you're going to blame him because he didn't waive his no trade clause when you're going to go.
What will happen is Tavares will take less money only if he gets a no move clause because he does not want to move. And I am okay giving him a no move clause at $5 million or 4.5 or 4. I'm not okay giving him a no move at 8. And that's the difference. Because at $4 to $5 million, if he gets, obviously he's going to get older, but if he, if his play declines at a $4 to $5 million, you're okay putting him as your third line center.
Even if he gets 20 goals instead of 37, it's still a decent deal.
Exactly. But at $8 million, he has to be your second line center.
Right.
But my bigger question is, hypothetically, if Marner said the same thing, he probably wouldn't do half. But what if Marner was going to come back at the same contract you offered him now?
Will he?
I would not bring him back. I would not bring him back. And I'll be honest, I don't think he wants to come back.
No.
But would any of you boys bring him back if he was willing to come back at 9.5?
No.
He's getting 10.9 now. Why is he going to take less?
Because he wants to be a Leaf. He has the pajamas. Tavares was having a yard sale. He bought a pair.
No, I don't bring him back. Honestly, I think that I
Was it
I don't
the number or is it the attitude for Martin?
It's attitude, 100%.
100%.
I just don't think that with what has happened here over his career here, so I was listening to the radio and they made up a lot of good points about Mitch Marner. He had a rough start here with the Babcock thing. And they didn't give him the signing bonuses. And then there was the 2019 negotiations where his agent and his dad said something silly on the internet that turned the fan base against him. It's
what was that? Like, can you remind me?
It was something about that if they don't get their money, they're going to go to Switzerland and that, oh, we don't need the Leafs. Like, I'm better than them.
What?
Yeah, it was like his dad went on national radio and was like,
Negotiation tactics.
my son's the best hockey player in the NHL, and if he doesn't get his $14 million now, we're just going to go to Switzerland. And it kind of gave this weird vibe for him. It really put him in this like really weird, like selfish kind of bratty attitude that kind of carried him forward. And he's kind of taken a lot of I didn't know this actually. He's taken a lot of abuse in the public, which I wasn't aware of, which isn't really cool. I even heard something happened after Game 5, which they will not talk about. But there's definitely a sour taste between the fans and Mitch Marner here that I don't think it's going to work. I think he looks at this and is just like, I'm out B. Like, I got to go play somewhere where I'm not the number one player. I got to go play somewhere where I don't have to worry about who's going to like me and who's not going to like me. I think he's a fantastic player. I
need to go somewhere.
I do. I think he's a fantastic player.
You don't win a Stanley Cup.
I know deep down he's going to be a 90, 100-point player somewhere else. I know he probably could still do something in the playoffs. But with the way the Leafs are managed, the way they are orchestrated as a roster, with the way how he feels now, I just think that it would be a bad precedent. I just think he needs to move on. It's a mutual thing. Let him move on. Let him go play somewhere else. Let the Leafs bring in somebody else that has different intangibles, like a Sam Bennett, like a Brad Marchand, like a Brock Nelson. Bring those guys in. Bring Tavares back for the veteran leadership, and then you move on and you fix it. Maybe try to fix this kind of attitude you have here.
So right now, from the Sportsbook review, it's saying the most likely team to bring in Mitch Marner is the Chicago Blackhawks.
Not surprised.
They're going right now. The order would go for just kind of your top tier teams that are interested. Not that Chicago's top tier at a team, but I mean teams that are interested. Chicago Blackhawks, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, the Utah Mammoth, Carolina Hurricanes, the Detroit Red Wings, New York Rangers, the Quacking Ducks, the Minnesota Wild, and Chazzy may be excited, the Montreal Canadiens.
I don't think it'd be good in Montreal. I really don't.
Oh, I mean, Marner and Caulfield could be magic if he can handle the pressure in Montreal.
Nick Suzuki up middle. Wow,
he can't handle the pressure here. You know how much worse it is in Montreal.
Hey, it's better because he won't understand them.
If it's equal.
No, your fans are crazy. Your fans are crazy.
But he won't understand them, so who cares?
I mean, that's true.
Look again.
That's a valid point.
Do it. I think
out of the teams that I'm seeing in there, I'm saying Pittsburgh. You already
under
got
a St. Louis like helm in that locker room.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Right. It's all culture in that locker room.
Right.
But I think he's going to go to Pittsburgh. I think he's going to Pittsburgh.
Go back to Dubas.
Pittsburgh,
go back to Kyle Dubas. Get Marner playing with Crosby. I think Crosby can straighten out some of the attitude problems of Mitch Marner.
Heading into the Olympics.
Yeah, that too.
And you saw how well they played together in Four Nations.
Yeah.
So
who would play on that top line?
The AI is predicting Chicago.
I think Chicago.
We've said that too.
Which we've said that too. And I think
Chicago will give them the 14 for sure.
Chicago will give them 14.
Yeah.
Because they know Connor Bedard, whether he's admitted it or not, is thinking about leaving Chicago because he has nobody to play with. Every time they get a half decent player, they move him. So, look, they're probably not signing back Ryan Donato. They traded Taylor Hall. Nick Foligno's hot garbage. They need someone for Connor Bedard to play with. And
well, they dropped Seth Jones. How much?
That too.
Contract.
That's a lot of cap space, right? Because they didn't eat any of that contracts. They have that $9.5 million.
Okay.
Plus the cap's going up 5. You look at that one now. We can afford Mitch Marner at 14, right? So,
well, they could be dangerous in this free agency market.
Oh, I think so.
They're spending all on Mitch Marner, like in all seriousness.
Yeah. I think the thing is with Mitch Marner that no one's really talked about here yet.
Talk about it, Danny boy.
Mitch Marner
is
a franchise player. We can all agree on that. But when it comes to his leadership and character and stuff, he's not the guy. He's not the leader. He's not the captain. He is great supporting staff. And that's why I think he would be great on Pittsburgh, as Jacob said, because Crosby will always be the guy. Marner will be the supporting cast, kind of like what Phil Kessel was. And what happened with Phil Kessel? Oh, yeah, 2 Stanley Cups. And since they got rid of Phil Kessel, they haven't done anything. And that's the thing. They have some good players now to play with Crosby, but for just good players. And Crosby makes good players better. But if you already bring a franchise player like Marner to play with Crosby, you look at it, Crosby had Kessel. Before he had Kessel and made it to the Cup Finals, he had Hossa. Before Hossa, he had Mark Leckie, which I think is a Hall of Famer. He should be a Hall of Famer.
Earl McGinley.
Joel McGinley, I forgot about him. Exactly. Gary Roberts, right? He always had great players to play with. And these past couple years, yeah, I agree. Crosby can make any player better, like Chris Kunitz
a 40-goal scorer.
Right, and Raquel nowadays, who's a 30-goal scorer. I go Jake Gessel. I get it. He can make any decent player good. But if you put just more than decent, like a great player with him, holy cow, Rodney Wayne, that's the Stanley Cup.
Now, think about, too, if you have Crosby, Marner, Raquel, that's a line that's going to easily put up like 250 points a year, no problem.
Exactly what I'm saying.
However, it will be interesting, though, will Pittsburgh pull the trigger on that? And I think Leaf fans, I'm going to say this now, I think some of the over hatred of Marner is not reasonable. Like, I didn't agree when fans were dumping beer on him as he was going off the ice. And I think if you want to boo him, that's more than fine. You paid $1,000 to go watch your team score 1 goal and get blown out 6-1 again. Boo all you want. But no physical abuse. I think that's, and to be honest, this is a reason why Toronto has a hard time getting free agents at times. It's not that people go on about the taxes. No,
100% it's the taxes.
Oh, give me Chuck just talked about it in one of his interviews.
Now, I think that's Chuck just being a troll.
Yeah.
But even when you're being a troll, you're
sorry for them over there.
But I was an interesting point that Dan and I were talking about off camera, though, with Marner, and it was looking back when he was screaming at the 4th line. Right after that, he goes and makes 2 terrible turnovers, which caused a goal. But people are also pointing out he was just out there for a shift, and there's literally no sweat on him. So it just showed he's yelling at everyone else to wake up, but he needs to wake up too. A guy that didn't need to wake up in these playoffs was Matthew Nyes. He played hurt, and he still gave it his all. I think unless he gets offered $14 million, you absolutely have to keep Matthew Nyes. I think that is your number one priority before July 1st.
I agree.
Matthew Nyes has to be re-signed. As much as he says he wants to play in Toronto, if Montreal says, we'll give you $12 million, come play with us, that's going to be pretty hard to ignore.
How long is this deal? How long?
It's going to be a bridge deal because I think Nyes feels he can probably get it closer to a max contract later down the road. I don't think I think 3 years. I think Matthew Nyes has not hit his full potential yet.
I agree, yeah.
He scored just under 30 this year. If he puts in 40 next year, which I think is doable, right? Like it's good. It's going to be an interesting time, but I think Toronto has to lock Nyes up for a minimum 3 years and try to see if you can sign him for 8 or less.
I hate to say this, but just to be the difference maker in the room here, as great as Matthew Nyes is he hitting 30 or 40 goals without Mitch Marner beside him?
Yes.
We haven't discussed that.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
It's not like he scores all these like pretty goals. And I don't know why I wrote in the private chat in all caps. That's why I'm laughing.
My God.
Lane, you have an interesting point you want to bring up about the Leafs goaltending situation right now.
Well, it's actually something we were just talking about. And, they asked Joseph Wall, and I actually want Dan's thoughts about this because he kind of low-key took a shot at Mitch Marner, very low-key, but he kind of
did
said,
he?
Yeah, when they did the locker room.
Well, I don't know this.
Time to spill the tea.
When they were doing their locker room clean out, they asked Joseph Wall, they said, like, what do you think about the pressure here? And he said something to the effect that he's like, if the pressure's too hot, get out of the kitchen. Like it doesn't bother me. And if it does, you don't belong here. He basically said, he's like, if this bothers you, then we don't want you here.
I 100% agree with him.
I thought it was really crazy that Joseph Wall kind of is maybe like this team. And we saw Matthews kind of take a shot at him too, but being a passenger.
Right.
So I really feel like the team too is really started to take some low-key shots at Mitch Marner on his way out here by saying that he's too emotional about
Mhm.
the pressure here, and that's kind of where all these comments are coming about, because he gets way too offended and reads into it too much, where a lot of the team feels like they need to kind of shut up the noise. And I just thought it was funny though. I know how much you talk about Walp here and how you don't think he should be here, but he
Right.
basically said, he's like, I don't care about this. I love this. I think it's great. I'm ready to rise to the occasion. If you're not, then well, see it.
I give him a new respect for after hearing that comment. And even in the past,
Yay!
even in the past when I poke
He's your
fun at
prime
him,
minister, not your prime
I
minister.
I never poke fun at him on a personal level. I don't think I've never met him or anything, but I don't think he's a bad guy. I really
Joe
don't.
Wall, I think Dan just asked you out.
I don't wish anything bad against him. I really don't. I just think he's got to be better. But after hearing that comment, it sounds like he knows he has to be better. And from what I didn't see that, so thank you, Lane. But from what I saw in the interviews, I thought the room's very divided. I see that you have Marner and Matthews with their passenger comment, as I said earlier.
The
is
more
almost
I think
ridiculous.
about it, the more I think Matthews was taking a shot at Marner with that comment.
Oh.
Yeah, I have the quote
Because
here.
you
It's
see
like,
a guy like Marner yelling and screaming to the four flying guys on the bench. Well, there's no sweat even coming off him. And again, this is
I
not
didn't
me
think
saying
of
Mitch
that.
Marner is a bad player. He is a very good player. He will go to another team and maybe put up 100 points. But I do want to bring up a question.
I think he
that
put up 110.
I thought about this when Dan mentioned, will Matthew Nye score 30 without Mitch Marner? Well, Mitch Marner put up 100 without guys like Matthews and Nyes to pass the puck to.
Well, that's
Playmakers
true.
are only as good as their, besides of Sidney Crosby, they're only as good as their line mates.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say Sidney Crosby is I think I could play with Sidney Crosby and still somehow score 20 goals.
Yeah,
That is just the type of player he is.
Just the type of player you are.
Thank you. I know I'm pretty talented, as Terrell Owens would say. But I don't know what Mitch Marner is
Oh my gosh.
able to do that. And here's the quote, though, from Joseph Wool.
That thing's
thankfully he's
huge.
putting it in the chat.
Holy cow, it's like a paragraph flow. It's like a novel.
Okay, so well, Dan, let me read. Let him cook.
Okay.
And then the thing about the pressure, it comes from a good place, right? It comes from us having fans that care. It comes from having media that cares. I had a unique experience of playing for only this team, so I can't really speak experience playing at different teams, but I know there's nowhere else I'd rather play. I'm happy how much people care, and it really makes you focus that much harder and really be.
and and really be in the moment that much more when you have the pressure. The flip side is you don't have pressure and no one cares. I think it's pretty awesome that the fans actually care that much. That was the rest of it.
I think that is an interesting quote comparing to where you have some guys who are saying, "Your media is too tough on me."
Well, how is that all directed to Marner? Isn't that directed to the whole team?
Because he's the one who's kind of been like, oh, it's really hard here. He's been the most vocal player.
He has said that in quite a few pressers, that the pressure playing in Toronto was second to none.
And he called himself a god.
Yeah, but they know that across the league. Any player knows that.
Yeah, but
I think what Wool was getting at is that, like, you need to actually breathe and live by this pressure. And that is why,
So
I'll be honest,
he went to bed under Maple Leaf breadsheets when he was younger. He's obviously got Maple Leaf passion.
Like, it wasn't a mean
Is he American?
You could tell he was poking at him a little bit there.
But this is just where I more say I don't think Marner goes to Montreal because I think he's going to want to go somewhere with no pressure.
That's what
I think he
won't
could go
understand.
to. I think he could go to a Utah or a Chicago or a San Jose. As much as it's not on this list, a San Jose.
Cool.
I think there's pressure in Detroit. I think there's pressure in Detroit. There's pressure in New York, Anaheim, or Minnesota. I think would be a good pick because Marner and Kaprizov could be magical. I'll tell you that.
It could be.
Carolina,
if
they lose this, they could be looking for him.
Like
he could be their missing piece to put him over the edge.
But he did deny for trade to Carolina for Wanton.
I don't think it was because of Carolina.
I think it was more the fact that he didn't want to leave Toronto that way
at that time.
It kind of, and I'm going to pull this here. This is
And he
sort
had
of
the
like
keys.
Matt Sundin 2.0 in his final year as a Leaf. He declined to trade to Vancouver, and then what did he do in the offseason? He signed in Vancouver. So
Right.
it'll just be very interesting to see how this plays out with Marner. But I
Interesting.
do, to get off of Marner here a little bit, I do think Matthew Nyes you absolutely have to keep. And you need to tell Austin Matthews, if you're hurt, I don't know, man, find a better rehab center. I get a better massage therapist.
I don't believe it. I
believe
don't.
he was hurt because he played hurt. He played like he was hurt all year, but then
No,
don't
he
go to
played
say
like
he was
crap
hurt?
because he is crap.
What did he say? Did he say he was hurt?
He said he's been hurt since training camp. Then why did you go to Four Nations?
Okay, I have a reason
Exactly
why.
my
I heard
point.
what.
Okay, Lane, why?
Based off what I heard, and a lot of people might say this is some word that I can't say on the air, but basically what I heard is it was I don't know, this is not 100%, but this is what I heard. It's an injury where it didn't matter if he played or not, because the fact that, like, I just heard what the injury is, it wouldn't have mattered if he sat 6 months at home or played. It wasn't getting better unless he gets a lot of rest. So either he doesn't play at all this season or he plays. It really wouldn't have mattered. Like, I heard, that's what I heard. It wasn't something that's that serious that he just needs he actually just needs like full off season to rest. But for them not to play him wouldn't have mattered. He still would have been dealing with it. And they figured that Austin Matthews at 70% to play a more shutdown role was better than playing maybe David Kampf at 100%. And he still did pretty good considering he had a rib. A lot of people say it's a rib injury that he had most of the season, and that he should be okay because he doesn't need the surgery. But that's just based on what I heard, that it didn't really matter whether he was sitting at home or playing.
Okay.
It was a playable injury that he could play.
That's a very good point.
He just would never be 100%.
So then my question is, if you're the Leafs coaching staff, do you shut him down for the season like Edmonton did with Evander Kane? Evander Kane's been electric in these playoffs for the Oilers, which we'll get into the Oilers soon, but he's been electric. Do you shut down Austin Matthews? The Leafs are still a playoff team without him. Yeah, they maybe don't win the division, but they probably get a wild card spot. And
could be your chess piece going into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I mean. Then he's the missing. Or then what you do is you put him on IR, and then you use that $10 million in cap, and you go get, I don't know, Tage Thompson in Buffalo, and then all of a sudden you bring exactly right. Then you bring in Austin Matthews for the at playoffs. I think this is something I look at the Leafs.
We just solved the whole year.
You royally screwed up then to play Matthews all season to not have him ready to go for the playoffs. The playoffs should have been your only option. You should have went through and seen what you could do to start the year without Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
Because I think with Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Nyes, I think that's enough that you're a playoff team even without Austin Matthews.
Oh, I agree.
Especially at the deadline, you went out and got Scott Lawton. So then I think Max Domi is a mediocre second line center. Scott Lawton could have been your third line, even before Lawton. David Kemp is your third line center, and you bring up Fraser Mitten, and he's your fourth line center, or you flip those two guys because I think Mitten's NHL ready.
But he's gone, is he?
He wasn't gone at the time, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah.
So that's just, if Matthews was hurt, do what Edmonton did. Evander Kane didn't play all year in these playoffs. He's been electric. He has been a major difference maker for the Edmonton Oilers.
What are you guys anticipating tomorrow with the executives at the booth?
A lot of BS.
Especially with rumors coming out of Long Island.
There are no moves off the table. We feel bad about what happened. The players need to be better. We have a lot of high-end talent. We'll figure it out next year. Every year we keep hearing every move is on the table, and then no moves happen.
But
so until a move happens, remember I said to you, I won't believe this team is different until they make it to the third round. I don't believe they will make a different move until they do it. I don't believe Mitch Marner is out the door until he signs somewhere else.
Really?
No. I think this team is stupid enough to run it back again with the same group. That just has not been working. I'm not saying they're bad players. We just need a different mix.
I agree with Jacob a bit there.
So if you're Shanahan and the Leafs,
is Shanahan even at this meeting tomorrow? If they've given permission to speak to the Islanders, is he even there?
He may not be there.
I don't know.
That's a good point too.
I'm
I think
keeping it
he
a
will be.
buck. He might not be there. It might be a Brad Tree Living show.
And Larry Tannenbaum.
No, Keith Pelly.
Yeah, Keith Pelly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But he was pretty vocal. He was pretty mad last year.
He
And
was.
And
I
Keith
remember.
Pelly does not take a losing team.
No.
And I
Like, I remember when he came in and he did his speech about to the Toronto Argo fan base. He's like, we don't accept mediocrity here.
No.
Like, we are championship or bust every year, and that's their goal.
Yeah.
And that's his goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs and his goal for the Toronto Raptors.
And I could be wrong. I
And
think
the
it was.
Argos.
I
And
think
the
it was
already
like
said
his
Argos.
first year. I believe last year was his first year as head of MLSE. So sometimes when you're a lot of people blame Treliving with this, but I actually don't. I think when you're in charge of something, and Chaz, you might know a lot about this than I do, but I think you got to see things out first before you make massive changes, right? You can't just come into an organization and or an idea or something and just blow it up because everyone else says. You kind of have to watch with your own eyes, see what's going on, and then make the necessary changes. I think that's what Treliving did his first year. He made some
Right.
necessary changes. I think Pelly now has seen the team this year, and now I think he'll have a better understanding of where he wants his team to go now after he's actually been able to see it, watch it, be on the board, see the financials, see what's going on. He might give a lot of BS answers, but I think he might be a little bit more ideal of who he wants to bring in to run the team, to be the leader of this team. The idea, the kind of like the way they want to attack this. I do think there is going to be massive changes. I don't think this is going to be like what Dubas did or what other people did. I do think there will be. I think there might even be changes with the GM based on what I've heard. I don't even think Treliving is safe. They may be looking at this totally different.
I
bringing
find that
totally
crazy.
different gut.
I do
But at
too.
the same time, it didn't get done, and he did better. Brought in, he didn't get the job done.
Now, this is an interesting perspective, Lane, that you brought to Chazzy, who puts the E, capital E, in CEO. Chazzy, so let's say you have now been brought in to run a new organization. How long do you wait until you make major changes, even though you think you know what changes need to be made? Besides of if you have a mole that's giving all your secrets to the CIA, what are you doing in your first year? Are you making massive changes? Or are you doing what Lane said, and maybe this year we finally see the changes in this group?
Well, if you're going to blame the GM, his hands have been tied under 3 or 4 major contracts that affect a third of your payroll. And there's a lot of pressure on those top 6. I think it's all timing. It's all strategy. It's all forecasting where you're going. You got to, what's the end goal here? And you give yourself a timeline. So in this case, you guys weren't that far off.
No.
And if you move one main piece that you're thinking brings a little more attention or can't handle the attention, trade that out. Do you need to do a little bit more? Maybe a couple minor tweaks here and there. But if you're not that, you just took the Florida Panthers to Game 7 and fell completely apart in one game.
But it's one game. But
no, it's 2 games. It fell apart.
But if your
5.
superstar you're saying fell flat and there was no effort, you switch that out, you put a little more effort in. And if that's what you guys think, I don't think Marner's your complete problem in the whole philosophy.
No, but we talked on the live
I also don't
show.
think it's your GM either.
No, and one thing, I think for Tree Living, I think he gets another year for sure before he's on a real
He
hot
should
seat.
absolutely.
Right
get
now,
I
out of
agree
the
with
team.
that.
He
Yeah.
is turned on.
Right now
but
is
his
his
butt's not on
moment.
fire.
Right now is his moment. What does he do? July 1st and on.
I think this next year, Dan, you should not leave a water bottle on top of a PlayStation 5, number one. Number two, I think this next year for Brad Tree Living is key because for the first time in his tenure in Toronto, he has options.
Now this is his team. He's now
this
put
is his chance. And I think he put his stamp on it when he brought in guys like Carlo and Lawton saying these are the type of players I want.
Yeah.
As we pointed out, the Leafs could have over $22 million in salary cap space by moving Marner and a couple minor player pieces.
Well, some big moves.
That's a lot of
when
money.
you're not that far off.
So I don't think Tree Living or Berube is gone yet, but if we have the same result next year after moving a guy like
would be a
Marner
massive
out,
mistake. Getting rid of Berube, massive mistake.
I agree with you, it is, but I know there's a lot of pressure in Toronto. And Lane, you're not the only person I've heard this from, that there's a lot of pressure in that organization. I've read that the ownership group is straight up not happy, and they're embarrassed about the way that Game 7 was. Do I think that means Tree Living is fired tomorrow? No. I think, though, if let's say Tree Living loses a guy like Marner and it blows up in his face, is he gone after next season? Yeah, probably. But I think the biggest mistake they made this year was playing Matthews banged up all season. I think that was just a critical error of judgment. Because if you imagine, if this is a time where he needed the offseason off, if he skipped all of training camp and everything else and came back around Four Nations even, that's a good 4 months.
Another big name going into the playoffs with him coming back.
4 months. Or you let him take the whole year off and just have him come in for the playoffs. The Mark Stone effect, if you will.
Yeah.
How would have you handled that as the fan base? Would you have understood?
I wouldn't have cared. If it meant we had a better chance to win in the playoffs, I'd be happier than to pick and poop.
I agree with him 100%.
I think playing Austin Matthews at 80% all year, he's still a good player. But then by the playoffs, he was maybe down to 70% or maybe 65% by the second round, where if you just let him sit. Look what Evander Kane is doing. He's killing it right now. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but Evander Kane is nowhere comparable to Austin Matthews.
No.
If you get Austin Matthews at 100%, you have the 69 goal scorer back.
The other thing.
Can you imagine if we had a guy that electric in that series? We might have won that 6-1 game if we had a guy like Austin Matthews who could score 4 in a period.
Easy.
He's that guy when he's healthy. When he's not healthy, he just isn't. And I think that's a mistake by the coaching and management group.
I agree with you. I think you nailed it on the head. I didn't even think about this in the beginning, but
that's because I'm really smart.
As Chazzy said, now that 84 hours have gone by, we can think with clearer heads now, right? But one thing I want to say that no one's talking about with Tree Living, I give him a lot of respect, and here's why. He's the first Maple Leaf GM that I can remember has going into an off season and has a full blue line under contract. And when I say full blue line, I'm even talking a 7th defenseman. You got Philip Myers under contract for 2 more years. So you got a full blue line under contract, and you also got 2 goalies. Regardless how good they are, that's another topic. But you got 2 goalies under contract. So now you're going free agency. All right, you got your defense locked up, which is incredible. You got your goaltending pretty well locked up, probably to get a reasonable third string. So that $22 million.
Why? You already have Hildeby and that other dude with the long name that starts with an A.
I would say
Hildeby's fine letting Murray walk and freeing up $1 million in cap space.
The other thing I'll say too is you have that $22 million to spend on scoring forwards. That's incredible, bro. Doofus never figured that out. I know any other GM we had.
You know what, though? I actually feel bad for Kyle Dubas in some ways, and I'm going to tell you why. I do, because of the Jake Muzzin situation.
Movie effect.
If Jake Muzzin didn't have that career-ending injury, this is a very different blue line under the Kyle Dubas era. Jake Muzzin was a difference maker on that blue line, and when the Leafs were starting to kind of build, it was with Jake Muzzin, right? I mean, the John Tavares contract was too much money and it was too long, but I kind of get what he was going for. He was trying to make that big splash, being like, hey, look, boom. But
I got one more point before we move on.
Go ahead.
Can you grab that? Can you grab the circus book?
Oh, is that good of a point? Okay. I never heard anyone ask for the circus book. It's got to be special.
Now, can you turn it and face it to yourself?
For what?
Oh! Okay, did Berube not win an award or have the most wins or something as a Maple Leaf head coach this year in his first year?
No.
I thought
that was actually Sheldon Keefe.
But didn't he not get the most wins or something in his first year? Or
not the most points, so I can't remember.
Win your conference for the first time, and then you're telling me that he's on the hot seat? Toronto?
I'm not saying he's on the hot seat. I'm saying if it doesn't work again next year, he could be. This Leaf, Chazzy, you have to remember, the Montreal Canadiens won a cup in 93. Okay? The Leafs have not won a cup in over 50 years. Everyone is on the hot seat every time you don't get it done. Am I firing Craig Berube? Absolutely not. But I am not happy with the way they handled Austin Matthews this season. And I think they need to look at a situation like that. And let's say Nylander gets banged up and he can't play the year until the playoffs, then just rest him. Same with Matthews, because it didn't work. Winning the division didn't matter. Because at the end of the day, we still lost to Florida. Doesn't matter if you lose in the first round or second round, you still lost to them. Well, I think if a Matthews at 100%, I think Austin Matthews at 100%, you can beat Florida.
With another stud on your top six, yes.
And another stud in your top six and maybe two good more bottom nine forwards. Yeah, because honestly, that fourth line, I am not changing a damn thing.
No,
I think Lawton, you re-sign Lorentz. You still have Yarncroke, I think, for another year.
Yeah.
I mean, Lorentz is going to want a little more than a league minimum, but I don't think he's going to get much more. Probably about to $1 million.
I would say $2 million. I think
he's not getting $2 million with his stats and on a team like Toronto. 1.5 at the very, very most.
We shall see.
I'm sad about Patches.
We have eyes. Patches is not coming back. I'd be absolutely shocked if he doesn't retire.
Yeah, I'm sad about that. He was really good.
Oh, I would love to bring him back.
But I want to move on, though, to the Oilers versus the Stars. And
you don't want the circus watch again.
I felt like I was watching the Leafs in that third period again. I'll tell you that much. Third period was a mental breakdown between taking all these minor penalties. Whether you want to blame Skinner or not, you couldn't get a save. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hopkins, Hyman, Kane couldn't score a goal. Those are your top guys, right? They couldn't get a goal. And I mean, I get Ottinger's a good goalie, but if you're only going to get 6 shots in the third period, you're probably not going to score. Outscored 5-0 in the third. This is a complete disaster. The Edmonton Oilers, talk about a clown. You deserve the circus book, Edmonton. Not the city. Lovely city. But the team.
In the first 8 minutes.
The third period was a complete disaster. Yeah. And however, I want to throw this to Dan here. Dan, on our live show, by the way, we do a lot of live shows on the Striggers On podcast, powered by Striggers Gaming, not Home Depot. You mentioned, Dan, if you're the Oilers, you're not hitting the panic button after this game, even though the third period was a disaster.
Nah, B. Because I said, go blow because you're my blow.
There's a silhouette over this.
No, me.
Because I said from the beginning, it's going to be a 7-game series. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You still win all your games at home, and you still just win 1 game on the road.
True.
You'll be okay. And I would rather be Edmonton and completely screw up game 1 than do what the Leafs did and screw up game 5 and 7. I'd rather do a screw up at the beginning of the series. The LA way is over with. Move on. And I think, if anything, the screw up is the wake-up call for Edmonton. Like, oh, this Dallas team's actually better than the other 2 teams we played against. We got to step up another gear. Versus LA and Las Vegas, they beat up. They kind of, the cruise control, So, I do think. So I think Edmonton's still okay. I think Edmonton will win the next game. And they did dominate the first and second period too, right? So I don't know that third period. Was it Skinner allowing 5? Was it the forwards taking stupid penalties? Was it the defense screening the goalie? Was it the coach not calling a timeout? I don't know who you want to blame. I think you win as a team, you lose as a team. Was just a bad overall effort from everybody. But now it's L versus Skin. And you can move on.
I look at it, though, if you're Edmonton, I don't even think we had a great comment during the live show powered by Striggers Gaming that Dan Gray pointed out, if you lose both, it really is not a huge deal if you're Edmonton. It's not a big deal until you lose at home. Right. As Dan Moore just pointed out, Mr. Moore, for your money, which I could use more money. My wallet is empty. But you look at Edmonton, if they win game 3 and 4 at Edmonton, then you just got to win either 5 or 7 in Dallas. We all said this is probably going 6 or 7, and except Lane, who thinks the Stars are going to blow the doors off the Oilers, which they did for 1
far he's right.
He's not right in general. It was one period. I don't think Edmonton needs
Lane's
to
got a lot
continue.
clearer. It looks like he went dark there for a bit, but you look like
Now he looks
shiny
beautiful. He is even more. He's dashing in 4K right now.
He's in 4K now.
But Lane, if you're Dallas, are you looking at how you dominated the third or how you need to be better in the first two?
Oh, good question.
Ooh, I like that question. I think you're looking at the third because, yeah, you know what? You weren't the best in the first and second. That might be concerning, but the pushback I think that you showed that you're good enough to beat this team. I think the confidence you're going to gain from that third period is going to be outer. Like I said on our live show, I think it's going to be outer worldly. I think it's going to go right to them, and it's going to go right to their skates. And I think you're going to see a better game too from Dallas. Like you mentioned, they had a bit of a rest coming into that game as well too, and they were coming off a big game of the Winnipeg Jets, an emotional game. And maybe it was getting to them a little bit in those first two periods there. But, you saw the way you dominated in that third period. You completely dog walked the Oilers. You got all the power play opportunities. You scored. You got depth scoring. Mikko Rantanen was big on that period. Jake Ottinger was the goalie that you paid for. He gave you the chance to win, and he gave you pretty much lights up the rest of that game. I think you're extremely happy with – you're maybe not happy with the way the game started, but how that game finished going into the next home game. I don't think you could ask for anything better.
The one comment I forgot to make when I was talking to you live, so I forgot to make here, was when the Stanley Cup's the hardest trophy to win. You either worst case get down 16 games, worst case get down 28. It's about a quarter of a season you play just to get one trophy. In a quarter of a year, you're going to have a bad period. And luckily, we didn't have a bad period in Game 7. So now you got the bad period out of the way for the playoffs, I think. And even Stuart Skinner, I think there's a possibility that Skinner will come back better next game because he got that one period out of the way. And great point to Lane, too. I like what you said.
Personally, if I'm the Dallas Stars, I'm more looking at what you change from the second period to the third. Because, the big thing is, if Edmonton isn't stupid and takes a bunch of penalties, I think Edmonton probably wins Game 1.
That's true.
So I think Dallas is going to have to look at their 5-on-5 game and find a way to get more out of their team. But they got a lot out of that second line, which we talked about in a post-game live show that turned into a pregame for the Stars in the halfway point. But they got more out of their second line, and that's absolutely what they needed. And this was a good game though, man. It was exciting, and I can't wait. Well, I mean, I have to wait, but I can't wait for Friday.
Let's see a DeLorean, then we can jump in time and see it. And then we would know in Streakers app who to pick to get the points. So that's the answer. Not knowing sports is just getting DeLorean and travel to the future.
But I want to ask you guys here. I think this game was more exciting than Game 1 versus the Panthers and Hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
But was it a better game than you? Because you guys were kind of going on this series to be the snore fest. And I still thought it was a relatively entertaining matchup.
It was. I was surprised. That was a lot better than I thought.
Shocked. Wayne, you don't seem as impressed about Game 1 from that series. You seem to think the Panthers kind of just plowed over the Canes.
Yeah, that was I'm a little disappointed in Carolina. I thought they would stand more of a chance, but maybe Florida's just got these mental games down to a T, and they just know how to work the mental game. Like I look back at Matthew Tkachuk just kicking the soccer ball against the gym wall, whatever you want to say, and Brad Marchand. Like I hate them all, but at the same time, they got these mental games down to a T, and I just think that Carolina, if they're gonna stand a chance in this series, they gotta not play into that. If they start playing into these mental games and let Florida get in their head, these guys are gonna get swept so fast. It's gonna be swept more than when my room gets swept tomorrow when the maid comes. It's just gonna be.
Is Dan your maid?
No.
That's very good. But I look at this game here, and Carolina dominated in offensive zone time, face-off, shots, hits, and takeaways. Bobrovsky outplayed Anderson. That's what it came down to. But they started to get under Bobrovsky's skin, whether he wanted to admit it in his post-game presser or not. They're taking a lot of runs at him. I did find it kind of comical, though, when Paul Maurice was complaining about it, where I felt like saying to him, if I was there, but Paul, the ref was right there. And he was the closest to the call. I don't think Florida has much of a leg to stand on when it comes to running over a goalie after they've done in the first 2 rounds, because they've done it the whole playoffs, and it's the way they play in general.
Yeah.
But I think Carolina's still right in this series. Losing game 1 is tough. Now you got to win a game in Florida. But if memory serves me right, they were a good road team this season, and they've been a good road team in the playoffs. So I could legitimately see Carolina being in this series still. I don't think one game. I'm like Carolina. I'm similar to the way they feel at Edmonton. Actually, I was wrong. They were not good in the road in the regular season, but that's okay. The playoffs are a new day. So, Lane, you seem to think that Florida's starting to lean towards a sweep. Dan is a floating head. So, Chazzy.
So I try to read the comment there.
It's okay. Comments are important. But, Chazzy, what are your thoughts here at this Carolina series? Did you see enough from that game to still have some confidence?
Oh, yeah. I think Carolina's got to win game 2.
I agree with you. I think they got to win game 2.
Going back to Florida, then Florida's just going to steamroll you.
I still think Florida's winning 5th, 1, and 6, so 5. Like Florida just looked to be the way better team.
But I mean, just to bring in some stats here, some stickity stats. You outshot them 33-20. You won the face-off 60% to 40%. Special teams was the only area Florida was better. They had a better power play and a better penalty kill. Carolina out-hit them 50 to 47. They were tied in giveaways and had 8 takeaways to only Florida's 2. The score was very misleading in this game. I will say, too, I thought Aaron Ekblad might have been under a bit more fire for punching Jackson Blake in the head for no reason.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Contact in the playoffs just hasn't mattered unless you're Brandon Hagel. Then it's a suspension. If it's anyone else, who cares?
Yeah, great.
We've talked about it before. I think the rule book is about as efficient as the clown book that I hold up here at the podcast, boys.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But going into game 2, what you need to do is pick up your phone, get on the Streakers app. If you don't have it, download it, and get into our sports booth or challenge anyone to a rivalry. Show who's better, show who's smarter. If you think you're smarter than Lane, which you might be, he's hired Dan as a maid. I don't know. I just hope Dan's not wearing a maid outfit. That's a terrifying thought.
He's got to pay extra $20 of that.
Who's winning game 2, Carolina or Florida? Dashinator. That's another new nickname for you. The Dashinator 2.0.
I've always had nicknames.
You're only on the second phase of your update. You're 3 updates behind the Chazzy 5.0. Who's winning game 2, Florida or Carolina?
I'm gonna go say Florida. I do think I think Florida's gonna win. I think Carolina's gonna get trapped in these head games. I think they're gonna keep it up. I think they're gonna do more things tomorrow. Paul Maurice, I gotta give him a lot of credit. He says some crazy things, and he trolls a lot, but he's a master and manipulator at trolling. And I think Florida knows what they're doing. I think they really got this down to a science of really getting in your head and really making you think twice and do some things that you normally don't do against a normal team. And I think Florida's going to go home with the 2-0 series lead and really put the pressure on the Carolina Hurricanes. I thought Carolina was going to win, but after what I seen in the game 1, the pregame antics, them getting mad, them getting kind of frustrated towards the end of the game, feeding into that emotion and the way how Marchand was like running circles around them, I think it's a bad news there in Carolina.
Man, you guys give Brad Marchand way too much credit. He's a third.
He's good at it though.
He's good, but come on, he is not dominating after one game.
Not dominating.
He's 5-0 in game 7s against the Leafs.
But it's all you got, Jacob. I know we don't. I know you and me don't like him because we're Leaf fans. But the way he knows,
I don't like him because he's a pansy. Nothing to do with being a Leaf fan. I don't know why we're getting into this in the Streaker segment, but I can't stand the way he goes after, like, he tries to fight these like non-heavyweights. But then if there's like a Ryan Reeves on the ice, he's like, I'm scared. He won't even fight a Max Domi.
But that's what's so smart about him, because
that's what makes him a baby.
Yeah,
baby Marchand. Although as much as I'm complaining about him, if the Leafs could get him, I'd take him in a heartbeat. And there's 31 other teams that want him. But
Your head.
Mr. Chazzy, who puts the capital E in CEO, who is winning game 2?
Like, I see where Lane's coming from with Florida because, like, yeah, they could be the team again to beat. But I'm going to give Carolina one more shot because I don't know if it was a fluke. It was a fluke, but they definitely got to come out and get better goaltending here. Because it's not even going to matter how many shots you get on playoff Bob. So the more he faces, the better he gets.
Yeah, literally.
I am also giving it to Carolina. I think Carolina is not going to roll over quietly. We talk about Paul Maurice. I think Brendan Moore is equally as good as a coach. He is smart. He's gifted. He's got beautiful eyes and a winning smile. What more do you need in a head coach? So Carolina. So Mr. Moore for your money.
And he cares.
Yes, sir.
And he cares. You also care, Dan. Who's winning game number 2?
I 100% agree with Mr. Dasco.
No. Okay.
All the same
Wow.
reasons.
Flip flop.
No, I said Florida was going to win this series from day one. And I 100% agree with him for all the same reasons that he just stated. If anything, I think Dasco flip-flop, because if I'm not mistaken, I might have to press the replay button. I think Dasco predicted Carolina to win the series. I was like, no, Florida's taking this all the way home. So now that Dasco came over to my side, I totally agree with him.
So Lane and or Dan, send me a rivalry, and I want to prove you wrong.
Nice.
And I'm going to prove you wrong by Carolina in our custom props hitting at least 33 shots again in game 2. This is going to wear down Bobrovsky in a long series, and it's going to make a big difference. He is going to get more tired than Dan gets more full of eating his name. And it is going to be a big ask for a guy at Bobrovsky's age to continue to face 30-plus shots and all the traffic and all the hitting and all the yipping and the yapping in front of him. So, Dan, actually,
Yes,
no,
sir.
screw you, Dan. Lane, will Bobrovsky allow 2 goals or less?
2 goals
Two
or less.
goals or less.
I think you got to put Bobrovsky at a harder prop to hit than Anderson. He's a franchise goalie.
Yeah, you know what I think he will.
You guys are confident in him.
I'm gonna say yeah.
Well, Craig, Dan, you're going last, bud. Will the Panthers get more shots than they did last game and hit at least 26?
Like 20, yes.
26 shots.
Yes.
Send me that rivalry. No way. I don't think they're getting that many shots.
Okay, done.
So, Mr. Moore, for your money, I will now let you speak.
I'll put my winning streak on the line.
Will Frederick
on the line, Chazzy?
Will Anderson have to make at least 24 saves? If the Florida Panthers are going to get more shots, as Chazzy predicts, will Anderson be able to make more saves?
Was the answer? Sorry, was the question? Will he or will he?
Will he make at least 24 saves?
Oh, there's the question. No.
Disagree. Send me a rivalry, you pleb.
Pleb.
Now let's move on to
Glover rivalry. Dropping the gloves. Let's go.
Here we go.
Now since we're already in the Streakers app, let's stay right in the app because you got to tap that app. And let's talk about who's going to win between the Oilers and the Stars in game 2. Friday Night Mayhem. I am taking the Edmonton Oilers will win this one. And Edmonton's going to score a lot. I think they're going to find a way to get some more pucks by Ottinger. Mr. Craig. I forget your last name. Westing something. Westing sounds like a TV that I bought once. Who will win this game?
I'm with you with the Oilers. I think they bounce back. I think that little mayhem at the end sparked them a little bit.
Yeah, that too.
They knew they fell asleep in the third. They'll wake up.
Mr. Moore, for your money. I remember your last name's the same as mine. Will Edmonton win game 2, or will Dallas take a commanding 2-0 series lead?
Edmonton's taking it all the way, baby. I agree with Chazzy. I think the Corey Perry doing for Turtle at the end of the game is going to wake him up.
So Lane looks disgusted. Lane disgusted Dashko. Lane, I think you want to challenge everyone to a rivalry here and prove us all wrong.
Punching all the corners here.
So you're taking Dallas.
I am taking Dallas. I think they take a 2-0 commanding lead at home. I think they're going to win their home game. I think this third period is going to spark them. They're going to come out flying in game 2, knowing they put Oilers. They got the best of Oilers in that third period. I think momentum does carry on per games. I think Dallas is going to win game 2 here, and they know how they can beat Skinner, and now they know how to by getting screens. I think that they're going to stick to that strategy of screening him and knowing that Edmonton's not going to push them out of the way to get division there.
Now, I think we all agree for Edmonton to win the next game, they need to play a full 60 minutes. And a full 60 minutes includes getting more shots on net. What? So, Mr. Moore for your money.
Yes, sir.
Sir, good Lord. Thank you. Will Ottinger have to make at least 34 saves in this one? Edmonton only managed 27 shots on net. However, going into the third, they were on pace for well over 30.
I'm going to say no. I think Ottinger is going to give up like 5 or 6 goals on 30 shots.
Whoa.
I will say Ottinger usually has one of those games per playoffs. If you look back at Dallas's history, so anything's possible. Mr. Dashko. For Dallas to win, I think they need more. They need to continue to get scoring from their depth. Will Matt Duchene get at least 1 goal?
I think he will. He's been really quiet in the playoffs. We talked about it.
But he had a big game last night.
Yeah, he was big in game 1. He was a really key player. This guy is I don't know ever why Nashville just traded this guy for no reason. This guy's a fantastic player. I think he's an essential player on a really good team. I think he's going to be huge in game 2. I think he's going to be a big part of why Dallas will beat them because they need the depth in this series. And I think if this depth keeps playing the way they're playing, they got a really good chance here. So I got Duchene for a goal in this game.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Colorado also trade Duchene for no reason? He's kind of an odd player like that.
They did. Very strange. But Mr. CEO, Chazzy, whatever your middle name and last name is, for number one, you're probably saying about what everyone's saying about Duchene. You're probably thinking the same Leaf fans are going to be saying about Marner in 3 years. But you said Stuart Skinner needed to be better. Will Stuart Skinner improve and make at least 26 saves in the next game? Better defense and better goaltending from the Oilers. 26 saves from the Skinninator.
Yes. If Lane's saying that they're going to come out, I don't see Edmonton rolling over. I think it could be a high scoring shots from everywhere. Who's going to get that lucky bounce? Could be an overtime match where it could swing the series.
Well could be. Now, I am taking the prop that is probably the hardest one to hit, but I don't care because I'm cool like that. I'm putting my winning streak on the line in Connor McDavid. And Connor McDavid is getting 3 points in game 2. Whoa, he has to be better than what he was. Wow. He's getting 3. Not 1, not 2, 3, baby. 3 points in game 2 because Connor McDavid, as the stakes get higher, he says cook those babies medium rare and feed them to him.
Because he cares.
Getting 3 points in game number 2.
McDavid likes cooking, doesn't he?
Apparently, according to random commercials.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and Connor McDavid likes wood.
That the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win. And I disagree with him. And I say the hardest to win is the Memorial Cup.
Well, hardest professional.
It practically is a professional league. Zach Hyman wants you to pay $70 to go see a Brantford Bulldog. But it's cheap. It was cheaper to go see a game in Arizona in the NHL. But Bry Pup wants to talk about a player that we need to watch, a guy that could be potentially a number 1 draft pick very soon.
Bry Pup here in the Memorial Cup starts on Thursday. And the player I'm looking most out for is the red hot scoring in 2026 NHL draft prospect Gavin McKenna. And my pick to win the entire Memorial Cup isn't going to be Dan's London Knights but my pick will be the Medicine Hat Tigers to take it all. Back to the boys at the Streakers Island podcast.
Whoa!
Wow.
Shots fired to more for your money. How about more for your
Literally.
idiocy, according to Bry Pup here?
Medicine Hat, eh? Okay.
Medicine Hat
It's still the Knights, bro.
Tigers, who first game in the Memorial Cup will be against Rimouski, which is a game they should win realistically.
Right.
But I want to talk a bit about Gavin McKenna. And Gavin McKenna is a special player.
Oh,
He is a guy that's projected to be the first overall draft pick coming up. But I think this is a game, this is a series a lot of the scouts will be watching. Big part of the Medicine Hat Tigers, which I guess this is why Bry Pup thinks he's going to get it done. He's had a big playoffs of 38 points in 19 games, but I believe this will be his first Memorial Cup.
And
Sorry, how
what
many
has
points?
Ethan Cowan done?
38 points in 16 games. This kid's electric.
Holy.
Where's cousin?
So, Dan, you've been talking about Easton Cowan a lot. Do you think this is the matchup to watch, Easton Cowan versus Gavin McKenna?
1,000%. This is the matchup to watch in Memorial Cup, but more importantly, this is a matchup to watch in the future of the NHL. Because you look at every era, it's Crosby versus Ovechkin. It's Lemieux versus Gretzky. It's whoever versus whoever. I'll call this right now. I think Gavin McKenna versus Easton Cowan could be the beginning of the next era. I
You know
think
what?
this is that big of a game.
And you're not out to lunch. The point totals are very comparable. Cowan at 39 points in 17 games. And he's got Memorial Cup experience. The last time the London Knights went all the way in 4 games, he had 8 points with 3 goals and 5 assists. So this could be the matchup to watch for. And when we're looking at the Memorial Cup schedule, on the 27th, London plays Medicine Hat. So that's the game that on the 27th. That is the game that I am very, very, very excited for. But I look at this and I really do think we're probably going to see a London Medicine Hat towards the finals. I think these are probably the two teams to beat. No disrespect to Munkin or Ruskin Rims.
Rimouski.
Thank you.
Where Crosby played.
Sidney Crosby. But these are the two teams to beat.
Some great people at Rimouski.
That's right. Yeah.
Not me. I'm from Newmarket. I think those are the two teams to beat, and I agree with you, Dan. I think it's really going to come down to Cowan versus McKenna.
I really think
this is McKenna's first Memorial Cup experience, so it'll be interesting to see, can he handle the pressure? Easton Cowan's played in some of these big pressure moments a bit more, but Gavin McKenna's the super kid, right? Everyone says this guy is the next Crosby level player. He's the next Nathan McKinnon. There's a lot of comparisons that I've seen. So Easton Cowan wasn't the first overall pick, but he's showing some people the way he's been playing in juniors. Maybe he should have been.
And what this is important too, because I believe with McKenna, he's pretty much guaranteed to be the first overall pick for 26, correct?
Oh, sure.
I
Well,
would think so.
no, anything can happen when Timothy goes to school.
Well, that's true. But I mean, right now as we speak.
Sorry,
For
is he
Cowan-
going into this year?
No, next year.
next year?
Next year.
But for Easton Cowan here, he's got a lot more proof because he had a bad role juniors.
Oh my gosh, nobody cares about that anymore.
Yes, I do. I care. Because I
Well, you're
don't want
nobody.
the Maple Leafs that get more losers. And he wants to prove that he wants to make the Maple Leafs roster next year. He doesn't want to play in the AHL next year. He wants to play and doesn't want to play in Switzerland next year like Austin Matthews did. He wants to play in the NHL. And he doesn't just want to play 4 fly minutes. He wants to take over Mitch Marner's spot. And by winning the Memorial Cup, this will help him do that.
Okay, I gotta say, first of all, you cannot call Easton Cowan not a winner. He's been a winner in minor hockey ever since he's put on skates in minor
Don't care.
hockey. He is one piece towards that Canadian team. You can look at a lot of people, and we went over that a lot too, about guys that they should have brought and who they didn't bring. But I think this is a big one for Gavin McKenna. It's the first time getting his team to the Memorial Cup, and this is his chance to prove that he is that superstar and that game changer.
True. That's a good point too.
How good is the Tigers goaltending?
Good question.
Does it say?
Well, I know that Tiger Cats eat them raw, according to Lane. So if the goalies can eat pucks the way the Tiger Cats can eat Grey Cup losses, then they're set.
We were talking the other night about how
fired from the Argos.
Lane knows I'm just kidding.
No, but yeah, no, I agree with what you guys are saying. It's going to be an interesting watch, and I do agree with what Dan's saying a bit. Maybe not Mitch Marner's minutes, but no, I do agree that Easton Cowan does have something to prove here. If he wants to make the Leafs roster next year, there are going to be a lot of eyes on him to see how he plays in the playoffs, because of course the Leafs are going to be looking for playoff caliber guys.
Yeah.
So they want to see what can he do in this big moment where the lights are the brightest, essentially at a junior level here. Can he be the star player and really show that I'm ready, I'm motivated, I got this. I did it in the CHL, did it in the OHL, I'm good to go. Or maybe Kevin McKenna, like you said, goes out there and shows like, yeah, I'm the next Crosby, and you guys need to watch out for me because next year someone might want to trade Austin Matthews so they can get me.
That's what I was just going to ask. How much is that first number one pick worth for next year?
This first round pick next year is going to be worth like everything.
Like this year's not going to worth
sell
much.
their house.
Now, mind you,
Gavin McKenna.
Tanking may not be a good thing because we saw what happened this year. The Islanders got it from the 11th pick, so
yeah,
you can't necessarily just think, well, if we lose every game, we'll get him. Well, that's not necessarily the way.
No.
Be bad for Connor.
Chazzy, to answer your question, Harrison Migma, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, is the starting goalie for the Medicine Hat Tigers. And in these playoffs, he has 14-1 with a 906 save percentage, a 2.35 goals against average, and 3 shutouts.
Pretty good.
Wow.
I think in the Memorial Cup, 3
Okay.
shutouts.
Very good.
1, 2, 3, 3 to 2, 1. I think there's going to be an exciting Memorial Cup, and of course, Brad Pup will keep giving us all the deets on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I hadn't thought of it until Morford brought it up, but it really is going to be, I think, a McKenna versus Cowan. Those are the two biggest prospects, I think, going into this. These are the two guys everyone's watching. And as Lane pointed out, to add to Dan's point, Toronto is looking for playoff caliber guys. Now, I think Cowan has proven that by getting to helping this team get to the Memorial Cup for the second straight year. But there's a difference between getting there and winning it. I don't remember who won the Memorial Cup last year. Chazzy, you have your 5th update. Do you know?
No, that needs a 6th update.
That's something Dasko can probably Google quick on the fly. He's pretty good at that. Well, Dashko looks it up. Did you
need
know?
those Google glasses that you
Okay, wait, boys. Time for the random dad joke of the broadcast. How do you call someone without a phone?
You don't.
You don't, because they don't have a phone.
Okay, I got a great joke. I went to Austin Matthews' house for a drink, but he didn't have any cups. Oh!
You just made fun of yourself. You're a Leaf fan.
What?
You just made fun of yourself. You're a Leaf fan.
Yeah, but
and for that, Dan, you get the podcast logo over your face.
Saginaw won against the London Knights, actually.
So London's got something to prove. So does Easton Cowan, right? So, but I want to move on to the NBA playoffs. Playoffs? And,
now you can put the logo on my head.
Lane, going into our live show, you mentioned a game was going into overtime that you were not expecting to go into overtime. Give me an update. Give me a sit rep, soldier.
Yeah, it was a crazy NBA game, and the Indiana Pacers stormed all the way back down from 12 points down to the last second where Tyrese Halliburton, who I said you got to keep your eye on, hits a game-tying shot with like 2 seconds left to go, and the Pacers pull off the victory and kind of the upset against the big New York Knicks. And this has been one of the closest games we have seen in the NBA Finals, and pretty much the whole way there. Every game's been 20, 30-point blowouts, but not tonight. It was a really close overtime game, and That's got to hurt if you're the New York Knicks. You had a great advantage. You had the win in the bag, and all of a sudden the Pacers come back out of nowhere and kind of steal one there from you. I don't know how Chazzy feels, but I think that's a demoralizing loss for the New York Knicks tonight.
Oh yeah, like we were saying, yeah, we didn't anticipate that, and then all of a sudden overtime loss. Yeah, no, I don't.
We're not the Leafs.
The Knicks fans, they're not gonna like that one too much. But you're gonna see them bounce back for game 2, and then we got game 2 coming up tonight for the
Would be 2 nights.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
So
The West the West will play tonight. They'll play tonight, and then it rotates every day. So there's one game every day, just like the NHL. So you'll have the
we'll see
Timberwolves.
if the NBA MVP can carry a 2-0 lead with against those Timberwolves. So
Yeah,
Isn't it?
apparently he's from Hamilton, eh? The MVP.
Yes.
Yeah.
The guy who thinks he's better than
right?
Michael Jordan. Just want to keep putting that out there. You haven't done anything yet, bro.
I know
Well, you
this
know,
could
You're not
definitely
even
be
my
the year.
neighbor.
It's funny. He's so underrated. Everyone when they talk about SGA, he doesn't get a lot of respect. And I heard coming into these playoffs about how he's not. When the pressure gets too big, he's gonna fold like a piece of cardboard. But no, he's done really well. He's been a really essential piece this year. He's been kind of the big star in the OKC. Some of the players have taken a back seat this year, especially Luens Dort. I know he was a big player last year. He hasn't been as big this year. But SGA really has stepped it up, especially in these pressure games. And he had another 30-point night the other night. So I'm just expecting him to just keep showing why he's one of the best players in the NBA. And I look at Anthony Edwards. I talked a little about him. He's got to be more consistent. I mean, I know he's one of the best players. We're taking a look at the Edwards era, but he's got to be better than what he shows because sometimes he just doesn't bring it every night. He's got to be a little bit better if the Timberwolves are going to upset the Thunder here.
Yeah, I think the NBA playoffs are starting to heat up, and hopefully people get back on their TVs and watch it because that's been an issue, right? But hopefully an overtime game like that, because that's what people say the best playoffs to watch are the NHL playoffs because of these crazy games we get, and getting a crazy overtime comeback should help. But you know what's interesting coming up is the Olympics announcing football will be in the Olympics. The NFL was like, yeah, we'll play. Why not? The CFL, on the other hand, this is a tough one, right? The commissioner has been quoted, so let me read said quote. You will lose my eyes as I look over here. I would love for the CFL players to be competing at the global stage of the Olympics, Johnson told media on Monday. I'm a huge believer in the importance of flag football when it comes to the growth of the game in our country. We don't have it quite as easy as the leagues down south in terms of managing our schedule. It'd be possible for an interruption. We're looking at a number of ways that we might be able to handle it. I can tell you my motivation to get our players out there. So it sounds like he wants to get the guys out there, but I agree with him. You can't exactly have a pause and do the Grey Cup in December. Unless,
yeah, true.
What you say, why not? It depends where you put it. I mean, maybe if you put it in Vancouver where it's a dome, but you just did it in Vancouver. Or is Olympic Stadium in Montreal ready by then?
No, it's not that
Yeah, that'd be cool.
No, Lane, you see, it's not that bad. No one wants to watch a Grey Cup in -50 in Winnipeg.
I think that's what's going to end up happening in November, to be honest.
It won't be -50 there yet. It'll be
what are the rules to this flag football? 3 down, 4 down, go the full.
I believe they're going NFL rules, but flag football is a big part of growing the Canadian game in Canada. This is a tough one. I don't know what the CFL can really do to get their guys there, and it's disappointing for the players.
When is the Olympics again?
28.
No, it's 26. But what month?
Not 27th.
What month, though?
It's during the football season.
I guess during the football season, but I'm saying, is it the beginning, the middle? Because I'm with Jacob. It might be worth taking a week off or a couple of weeks off in the middle of the season just to give the CFL player exposure. And that'll be great for the league when you think about it, right? Because people are like, whoa, who's that great dude? Oh, he plays the CFL. Oh, I'm going to watch CFL games now. It just makes sense to me.
Or not only that, get them exposure so some of these guys could maybe one day get to the NFL. And this has been a
That
big thing.
too, 100%.
Well, what's tough is here, boys, it's from July 14th to July 30th. Plus, the players are going to need a week or two off to get back into the swing of things.
Like, how many player slots are we talking here? How many players?
We don't
like, if you
know,
have the
but
NFL
if it's
available.
But what do you do if Edmonton's sending their top quarterback or a couple of their top receivers? Like, you can't have the Elks just suck for 3 weeks.
You might have to when you think about. No, let me finish. When you look at the World Juniors and the OHL and the CHL,
Irrelevant. That's a prospect league. This is professional.
no, but you lose their top players to Team Canada, Team whatever, and we still make the playoffs.
Doesn't it happen in soccer quite often?
It does, 100%. And it would happen the same way if a player got injured halfway through the year. So I say do it.
No, the only way you can do it is if you stop, and the only way you stop is if you put the Grey Cup somewhere where the weather isn't a factor. They haven't announced where the Grey Cup is in 28 yet.
They got time.
Put it in BC, the Dome, no?
Do you bring it into Toronto and do football at the Sky Dome again, as much as I hated football there? Do you put it in BC Place again? Because, I mean, BC will always put up a show. Look, their season opener, they're bringing in Snoop Dogg.
We were just NBC.
Do you go to if Olympic Stadium's ready in Montreal? Do you go to Olympic Stadium and play it in Montreal?
That'd be sweet.
It's got to be a dome if you do it, because even December in Toronto and Hamilton and Ottawa, the weather is too unpredictable.
I get that.
Yeah, the CFL, the thing is, the Grey Cup brings in so much money to not just the league, but to the city it's in general. You look at the revenue it brought into BC and the revenue it brought into Hamilton. It's in the millions.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't want it to be the Grey Cup to be around Christmas and lose all that revenue. It's a tight window you got to do it in. Because let's say the Olympics start on Friday, July 14th. So the players would have to be gone to Olympic camp at least a week and a half before. I don't see how you can shut the league down for a month.
I don't know. I'm not saying we don't even know how many players will get to go. Like Chazzy said, is it 1 player? Is it 20 players?
It would be a lot of players.
But I think it's worth. I really think we talked about before marketing for league, getting butts and seats, getting people to cheer on, getting Canadians watching it. I think this is so important for the league. And what Lane said, the future of the players to make the Olympics to be on the world stage.
I just don't. I'll be honest, and I have a very unpopular opinion. I don't like the NHL at the Olympics. It's not supposed to be a professional competitor tournament. Why the hell is the NHL there? The CFL is a professional league. I don't think the NFL should be going.
I disagree with you on that one.
Which is fine. I think the majority of people would. But like Chazzy looks so disappointed in me. He's like a father figure that's mad I failed the math test, and now his mic's muted, so he won't even tell me what's wrong.
We're talking about rosters of 16 to 20 players. And what do they play in the Olympics? An 8-on-8 game for the flag football?
I believe it's 8-on-8.
I don't know if it's going to be a huge factor.
Do you think maybe the CFL leaves it to a team-by-team basis? It's up to the team if they're willing to let the player go?
I think so. The NFL's opening up. I don't know.
NFL's different, though, because there's no football in July. So sure.
No, but they're going to want the big stud names on there. No, I know, not about the availability, but the players going, they're going to want the big names. They're going to want, to fill those teams up. You're going to get maybe a couple smaller countries that, it's going to affect some of the CFL.
I don't fully agree with you on that. Flag football, you don't want an in-the-pocket person that can't move.
No, but you're going to, I don't know.
You're going to want speedy guys, which is more CFL football than NFL football because they're more smaller but fast. Can you imagine Trey Ford in flag football when he waits the 4 or 5 seconds, then he can just go run by himself and no one can tackle him?
Be insane.
It'll be insane. So, I think you're going to see if the CFL players can go and they can work it out. I think there'll be players there. I just don't know how it works out. It really depends on the rosters. Like Chaz, you get what you're saying for like America, for example. Yeah, they're going to take mostly NFL players. But then you're looking at a country like Canada or some of these global countries. So I guess, Chazzy, I'm agreeing with you and disagreeing with you at the exact same time.
I'm just saying the fans are going to want the big names.
But I think there's Canadian fans who are going to be excited to see Trey Ford at the Olympics. Or Nathan Rourke, or
and the other
Sergi Mauja, or
those are the big names,
Jr., or like it's gonna. I don't know. I would love to make it work. I just don't know how it works.
The other thing too is we always have the legendary argument of can CFL players be competitive against NFL players? What a better way to test it than this, right? Have them all play the same game on the same team on the same field. And I think it'll set up a lot of credits at the CFL. I think it's so important.
Has flag football got motion receivers?
Yes. So show American DBs what it's like when you can't stop when you're not starting at the same speed.
That too.
Because that is the biggest adjustment when you talk to American players coming to Canada for the defensive ends. Like, for example, Benji Franklin and the Toronto Argos talked about that when he first got here. He was getting cooked every night. He was a really high-end prospect. He played in the NFL for a couple of years, but the NFL said he was about 3 inches too short. NFL's really picky on height. I don't know why. But they're like, if you are not exactly 6 feet, 1.752 inches, you cannot.
Or you're not a truck. Like,
yeah. I don't know, which is weird.
Some of those running backs are
but then
small,
what gets me, by the way, and I'm just going on a rant. They go on and on. They don't want these guys because they're too big, they're too small. But then you can't see a DB in the league that can keep up with Tyreek Hill to save their life.
That's true.
You want a mixture that you can bring in and out depending on who you're trying to defend. Because how many times you see Tyreek Hill in the NFL absolutely cook a defensive back?
Yeah.
Imagine he had a running start. Do you think it'd be worse?
But imagine if it was. Imagine if you had a DB that was a little shorter but was faster. Some of the DBs in the CFL are faster than wide receivers.
Do you think it would change the NFL game if wide receivers had the running start?
Oh my! You gotta remember though, it would take those NFL receivers a long time to learn how to execute the waggle properly and the quarterback
because of the timing.
It is when Austin Mack, for example, first came to the CFL, NFL guy who had been in there for a few years. He didn't even do a waggle play for the first 7 games,
like
because he kept screwing it up in practice. It is so hard to time it right.
And then he went back to the NFL, and then he came back to the CFL, signed a 4-year deal.
I'd find it more pressure on the wide receiver not going over that line.
It is tough.
Yeah, that's tough too.
But I would love to see.
Here we go. I guess you go. Here we go. You got to go over that line.
Here we go.
I would love to see the Summer Olympics in the CFL, and I think this will be a conversation we'll continue to have. I just don't know how it can be done. But sticking with the CFL, let's talk about some of the biggest headlines in training camp. So Dalton Schoen missed the Grey Cup for Winnipeg with a tough injury.
Yeah.
And he was back in practice for the first time. And he says he feels like he's right back at home. This is huge for Winnipeg with him and Brady Oliveira back at practice. Nick Dembski's very close. These are big, big things for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah.
Right? So this is absolutely huge for Winnipeg. So, like, Dan, when we've talked about Winnipeg in the past about not spending up to the salary cap, how big is it for Winnipeg to get these guys back?
I think it's insane that they don't spend up to the salary cap. And this year hosting the Grey Cup, they have to. They have to be there, and not just be there, but be competitive. Like, against the Argos, I hate to say it, but at the end, they weren't even competitive. And Asmith, buckle up as your starting quarterback, not even Chad Kelly, who's the franchise quarterback. So, the franchise league quarterback. So, it's like Winnipeg's got to figure it out. It's like the another team's not spending up to the cap, too. Is it Edmonton? I forget which team, but there's another team.
No, it's
Not
Ottawa that did, but I mean, Ottawa's pretty darn close. They're only off the cap by like I think 100,000, which I guess maybe one more player, but
Well, 100,000 is kind of here or there, right?
but
But
Winnipeg's under the cap by I think about a good $500,000, which is a lot of money in the CFL. That's
yeah,
that's 3 or 4 really good players.
and for Ottawa, I mean, it would be amazing if it made the Grey Cup. It'd be entertaining. It'd be very cool, but for not expected to. Let's face it, we're kind of expecting Winnipeg versus Toronto three-peat Grey Cup appearance again, right? That's what we're all kind of expecting.
I thought you said the Rough Riders.
I could say Rough Riders right now are the favorites in the West. And out of the East, everyone's really, funny enough, everyone's saying Ottawa's offense looks electric.
Yeah, but
Well, I
Toronto's
agree
not
with you, Dan. If I was going to make a way too early prediction, it would be Toronto-Winnipeg.
just because both teams have a winning culture. We talked about that on the show before. You look at Pinball Clemens and you look at Mike O'Shea, which Mike O'Shea was basically trained by Pinball Clemens, right? And you look at the owner groups, both Toronto with owning the Maple Leafs and the Raptors, and Winnipeg, who are the same owner as the Jets. For both owners of the league that have a lot of money to spend, Winnipeg's a very passing. Them talk about Plusser. Oh my gosh, we talk about players playing under Plusser. I think in the CFL, Winnipeg's one of the most Plusserful places. I don't know if that's a word, but it's created a new word. One of the most Plusserful places to, I just said it again, play in the league. Yeah, Plusserful. I think it's a great word. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Look at me go creating
Under
words
pressure.
before a.m.
Under pressure. But I would actually argue the most pressure out of any team in the CFL right now, I'm going to give you 2, and it's Lane's Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I'm sorry, Lane. I feel bad for you. You're a Leaf fan and a Ticats fan. Another franchise that hasn't won since 99. You've been in the dance a couple times recently, just haven't been able to get the job done. You brought in Kenny Lawler, so there's no excuse anymore for the offense. You have Kenny Lawler, Bo Levi, and Tim White. There's no excuse for that offense to not fire on all cylinders.
And a good defense, if I'm not mistaken.
And the Rough Riders, you know what? They are under so much pressure. They have underperformed the last couple of years, and they can't seem to beat Winnipeg. Everyone blamed Cody Fajardo. Well, you brought in Trevor Harris, and you still couldn't beat Winnipeg. So they're
won a Grey Cup. I think which
is now a backup in Edmonton, which blows my mind.
Now, Jacob, you're going to have to help me because I'm not as familiar with the players. But the one thing that I've noticed about as a Ticats fan, and this has been going through for a long time that I've always been concerned about, is our offensive line. I always feel like we're getting sacked more than any other team. Like I feel like the pressure.
I agree with that,
especially when Mazzoli was here. When I was watching it from an eye point of view, it was just beyond embarrassing how we were on the line. It felt like our quarterbacks never really had time to really get the plays going. And even when we did have good running backs or good plays like Speedy B, it always kind of set us back because we never really had time to set up these plays. I'd watch other teams would have sometimes have like of course you never have like 10 seconds, but sometimes you have quarterbacks have 10 seconds to set up a play. And here we are getting sacked 1 or 2 seconds in. So through maybe you can help me out. Have you seen any improvement from the offensive line of the Ticats, or is it going to be kind of the same of what I've seen from my eyes in the last few years?
I can say low column A, low column B. Like you have some decent players, and I do agree with you actually that the offensive line has been a issue for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Now, I mean, you did bring in a guy like Liam Dobson at right tackle who has made a difference over the last couple years. But you're still seeing your quarterback getting sacked. I believe they were 3rd most sacks in the CFL last year. And Bo Levi Mitchell was not a mobile quarterback, right? He's not like a Trey Ford in Edmonton that can maybe get you out of trouble. Now, Edmonton's defensive line is very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
But you do look at teams that win championships. And I'm not even just going to say in the CFL. I'm going to say in football in general. I think you win and lose championships at the line, whether it's your offensive line and your defensive line. And Hamilton's defensive line is really improved, although I still think they're missing Simone Lawrence in the middle, just as the leadership piece in Hamilton.
Love that guy.
But their offensive line, I think,
dude.
needs to be better, and I was expecting them to do a bit more at the deadline, during the preseason with their O-line. Now, maybe they're bringing in some studs from NCAA that we just aren't aware of yet. Getting into some of the preseason games, the Argos do play the Ticats this weekend. And that is going to be an interesting one to see. Toronto is known for having a really strong defensive line, although they've lost some big pieces on the offensive line. With Jared Brinkman, who's funny enough in Hamilton, you lost Flo to Calgary. You lost Zarezna to Edmonton. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But Lane, I think your analytics, and this is from a self-proclaimed sports analyst, is correct on Hamilton. I think their offensive line needs to be better, especially if a quarterback like Bo Levi Mitchell. Greg Bell is going to be a first time him being the main featured running back in Hamilton. And Hamilton's under a lot of pressure, right? You missed the playoffs last year, even though you went on a crazy run to end the year, only losing 2 of your last 9. You just couldn't get it done because the Ottawa Redblacks were unbeatable at home. And the Argos, even not having Chad Kelly for the first half of the year, managed to still be a pretty competitive team. Now, for Ottawa, you're going to be missing on Nick Mardner for the entire season due to a knee surgery that happened in training camp. I hate when these kind of situations happen. He was carted off the field in a practice.
Yeah, sad to see in Kingston.
Sucks. This is only his second year in the CFL, and he was really starting to find his way last year. I was really excited about this season for Ottawa. Mind you, Ottawa's got a lot of pieces on that receiving core. But, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Ottawa this year. I think if they can make the playoffs again, I think fans would like to see them win a game this year in the playoffs. But I don't know if there's a lot of pressure because you took a huge step last year from being one of the worst teams in the CFL to be fighting for home field right up to the last week.
Yeah, that coach, Dice.
Bob Dice, he is really
he did a great job. Yeah.
Is there a lot of player movement during the season?
Not during the season.
No,
not during the off season. You might see a trade deadline without a single trade in the CFL. Very common. However, I do think there could be some moves this year when we talk about the Blue Bombers in their training camp. I believe we mentioned this on a show earlier. I was really surprised they cut Shea Patterson. I'll be very curious to see in some preseason games coming up how some of these backups look. Is that Grey Cup game was lost when Trevor Harris ripped his thumb open. He just couldn't grip on the ball, and Toronto's defense, they're a turnover-happy defense. They completely dominated.
Oh, yes.
But getting into the upcoming games in the preseason, we're in week 2 in the preseason.
Wow.
Jazzy, you got to be excited about the Elks versus Stamps this weekend, because I think this is going to be your first look at VA in a Calgary Stampeder jersey.
Yes, very excited.
I think at some point we're going to see a picture of you in our group chat in your cowboy hat, ready to rock for this one. And I think this is a big game for both teams, actually, because the Edmonton Elks, you're going to see Trey Ford is not going to be playing, but Cody Fajardo is expected to take a lot of reps. And the better Cody Fajardo plays, the more pressure that'll be on Trey Ford. So watch out for that one. We also have the Riders versus the Bombers, and this is the game I'm also very curious about. We talk about backup depth in the quarterback position, and Winnipeg cut Shea Patterson and Jake Dalagala, so who the heck's going to be their backup quarterback? We all know Zach Caleros is the starter.
And Steves is gone too, right?
Steves was in Calgary before, which now he's in Saskatchewan.
So who is everyone in Winnipeg starting as?
Devler. Chris Strevler.
Thank you. He's still
Which
there?
he did play in the NFL for a little bit.
I like him. He's a good dude.
He played for the Jets. Guy that can't throw a ball much more than 15 yards, but he's very accurate under 15 and one of the better short yardage guys in the league. So maybe they feel with him as a backup, you're okay, because he was injured in that Grey Cup game, which made a difference.
Right.
So that's the thought process for Winnipeg, and they feel, you know what, have a young stud that they can bring up because Zach Caleros isn't getting any younger.
Yeah.
We also have the Red Blacks versus the Alouettes. There's not as many battles in camp right now. The only thing I will say is I'm curious to see how Davis Alexander and MBT look. As much as Montreal says Davis Alexander has a starting job, I think it's the same at Edmonton with Trey Ford and Cody Fajardo.
Yeah.
There is a lot of conversations over who should be the starter. And Dan, I know you've said it to me multiple times that you think MDT could be the starter for Montreal by maybe the third or fourth week.
I really do, because again, Alexander had a great rookie year and all the power to him, but there is such thing as a sophomore slump. Like we saw it in York over in BC. I think it's quite possible we see in Alexander too. And Bethel Thompson is kind of like the John Tavares of the CFL. Like he's just he's a special quarterback, but he's a bit older. He doesn't quite have the skill that he used to have, but boy, he still has a lot, and he'll be very good on a very good team. And I still think Montreal is a good team. They just won the Grey Cup 2 years ago, right? So, if it wasn't for Chad Kelly dominating, we probably would have brought Bethel Thompson back, right? So he's a great quarterback. So
I will say too, when you speak about Chad Kelly, he's not going to play in the preseason game coming up against the Tiger Cats, but I think we'll see some Duke, some Arbuckle, and potentially some Tucker. And there's a battle for the second quarterback position, I think, still. As much as Arbuckle won the MOP for the Grey Cup, I don't think he's necessarily locked up the backup position with Cameron Duke still there. Dukes was a very serviceable quarterback.
See, I think you're ridiculous for saying that. I mean, how can you, he didn't just win the Grey Cup. He also closed out and won the Eastern Conference Finals in Montreal when Chad Kelly went down about halfway through the game, okay? You got to give some respect and some credit for that. I think it's more of a fight between Dukes and Tucker for the third position. But
wow. You think Dukes could lose that spot after being over 500 as a starter last year?
Well, I don't
think out to lunch, buddy.
I don't think he will. I think it's just making.
Wait, Chazzy, can we make a prop? And I'm asking you this on the fly here. On who earns the third spot for the Toronto Argos and going out of training camp?
Yes, if you put, you can put a name.
Look how amazing this
is. A yes or no question. Yes, it's a yes or no question. Yes.
Chazzy can literally, and by the way, guys,
you guys could actually put it in yourself.
I can put it in myself because I'm a very smart person, but I am just going to show some transparency here. Okay? Are we ready? That was not on the script. That is how incredible this app is. That is not on the script. That is just me throwing random things at Chazzy, which I love to do, is just throw random things. I love to do it to the whole podcast group. But I am sending Lane a rivalry after we're done this show because I think Toronto is going to beat Hamilton in Hamilton, or whatever the heck you call your stadium now. It's no longer the donut box.
It's
not
a donut box.
Field anymore?
No, it's no longer Tim Hortons Field. It's just Hamilton something.
It's called Hamilton Stadium.
I think they should call it the 99th Stadium because that's the last time you won a Grey Cup. But I kid, Lane. But Lane, I'm sending you a rivalry for that matchup.
Let's go.
Because I can't.
Baby.
Go Toronto Argos. Go, go, go.
Go.
Hold
together. Fight the fall. Touchdowns to the blue.
Craig is just looking like, what the hell is this?
So the next time we see the analyst, you could be on a 3-game heater.
I could.
Yeah.
Or get my butt kicked.
With your rivalries.
Do you know who else got their butts kicked? The Padres.
The
Blue Jays. I can't believe the Jays won 14-0. I'm kind of shocked.
Against the Padres. Like, the Padres are in the World Series conversation.
Was this just a one-off for the Jays, or do you think maybe the Bats finally woke up? Varsho with a grand slam.
I think the Padres enjoyed a late night hit in the Toronto
Toronto's not that far.
They went to the high.
14-0.
You know what's crazy too? You look here at the score breakdown. The Jays only were up 2-0 going into the 7th. They got 5 runs in the 7th and 7 runs in the 8th. This game just exploded.
Well, like I said, in order for the Jays to get 98 wins like I predicted and be a good team, they gotta beat the teams better than them outside of their division. Because their division's weak this year, but the division is tough. And I think this series, I did not see them beating them 14-0. No one could even see that. But anyway. but they're up in the series 2-0 now. And the Jays will probably win this series. I think doing this, winning against one of the best teams in the league in the end of May, I think this is a momentum changer for the whole season. I think we could see the Jays doing a lot better.
I will say, too, a key that I've been talking about for a while is the starters getting more than 6 innings. You got 7 innings out of Gosman.
7.
Right.
You
Gosman,
only
great.
needed 1 pitcher out of the bullpen.
Fantastic.
9 Ks.
9 strikeouts,
9,
3
wow.
hits. I mean, he
The only
played some
thing
shutout, a shutout game for the Jays. And what's really surprising, the Padres have not scored a run yet this series. Jays won game 1 of the series 3-0, then 14-0 game 2. They've outscored them 17-0.
That's
So
wild.
the Jays are on back-to-back shutouts. I mean, talk about momentum, Dan. I got to agree with you. I think this is a huge momentum boost for the Jays.
But here's the thing.
Got
So
a couple RBIs as well. Like I was saying, he was 2 for 6.
But Lane, are you going to rain on our parade?
I might have to because
No, I don't have an umbrella.
just looking at
Hey,
starters
hey.
for tomorrow, and we got Bowden Francis pitching for the Jays, and I'm just looking at stats here: 6.32 ERA, 20 hits allowed, only 13 strikeouts. He's 2-6 on the season with a 5.63 ERA. We talk about the big wins here, and Bowden Francis is 0-4 with an 8.10 ERA across 23 and a half in a third innings in his past 5 starts.
These stats.
Could this be like we talked about having a good weekend, but could potentially Bowden Francis get maybe letting in 20 runs derailed the whole weekend?
Honestly, I don't think one off night or afternoon games at 1-0.
You win the series. Yeah, you win the series.
You won the series in a series that you were expected to lose in the first 2 games. You got back-to-back shutouts.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I can't remember last time I saw back-to-back shutouts in baseball. You see it in hockey every now and then.
Their pitcher is going to be Steven Kolek. He's only allowed 5 runs on 8 hits and 1 walk over 4 strikeouts over 5+ innings.
I'm going to say this then. I think the Jays probably lose the game today. And then they'll take a 2-1 series win going against Tampa.
I disagree. I think we're going with the Brooms.
Well, call me Susan and say that I'm silly.
Your broom.
Boom! Boom!
Oh, no, a mop.
Yeah, literally. Oh, no, I'm up.
But I just got to say here, congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays on a 14-0 victory, and a lot of good stats here to see. You know what? Bichette getting 2 hits, 2 RBIs, Guerrero hitting an RBI, Varsho with a grand slam, George Springer 50% at the plate,
Springer.
Badger having a nice game too. You know what I mean? They getting a run and 2 hits on 5 attempts. Ernie Clement going 3 for 4 at the dish. That's got to bring some confidence to the Jays, because they have been a very low-scoring team this season. We talked about it on the last episode of the Streakers On podcast, powered by Streakers Gaming, not sponsored by Home Depot. And I think this could be the breakout for the Jays. I don't think they're going to hit their 98 wins, but maybe they get to the high 80s, which might be enough this season.
And didn't Lane say last last game too, that their new free agent, what's his name?
Santander, he had a big game the other night.
He did, right? That's going to get him going too, right? So
I want to ask you guys then. Dan still seems to think the Jays could get their 98 wins. I think they could get on a roll and maybe hit mid to high 80s. What do you guys think right now? Like, they're up 24-24 right now.
I still think they're a 500 team.
Chazzy, who puts the O in CEO.
Can hope that they can be over 500, but we'll see.
I honestly think if they can get a bit of a run, and it will really depend on, like you kind of look at their upcoming schedule. You got the Rays, the Rangers, and then the Athletics. If you can win your series against the Rays and then split against the Athletics and beat the Rangers in between, you're starting to put yourself on the right path, right? Like the Jays did okay against the Tigers. Okay, yeah, they lost 2 out of 3, but they were all close games, only losing by 1 run. Then they've come into the Padres and they got back-to-back shutouts. If they lose to the game today, or as Dan said, if they win, which Dan, send me a rivalry for that one because I disagree with you.
Yeah, we'll
But-
do.
I could see the Jays getting on a bit of a heater.
Rivalry.
And if they get on a heater, anything can happen when Timothy goes to school.
Thing.
But you know what needs to happen?
Bedtime.
We need to wrap up the show. But before we go, Dan has something to let y'all know with the island mindset that he said before, but he hasn't said this island mindset. So Dan, go ahead, please. The floor.
Yeah, I try to never copy island mindset. I guess once we've done a billion episodes, I might have to. But anyway, today is actually a quote that I stole from the radio, gotta be honest, because I just gotta be honest on the island. But I really liked it. So I thought, I'm going to type that out and post it on my Facebook and use it as my mindset so I can copy and paste. See the power of typing things out. Anyway, instead of saying you have to do something, instead of saying you have to do something, say that you get to do something. Also start the day with a positive and being thankful. And what it just means is, instead of saying, I have to get up and I have to go to work or go to school, or I have to watch the sports games and think about what to talk about on the podcast, just be thankful that you are getting up and that you're healthy and that you have things to get up to. Unfortunately, some people don't have things to get up to or can't even get up or don't have a family or anyone to love to get up to, right? So I think it's a very good mindset. Instead of saying you have to do it, be thankful that you get to do it.
As they said on Veggie Tales, a thankful heart is a happy heart. I'm glad for what I have. That's an easy way to start. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching the Streakers Island podcast. Looking for more Streakers Island content? Make sure you follow all the social medias, plus follow all of us. Chazzy doesn't use social media because he's an old man.
Because he's CEO. He's too busy for that.
It's old. But we have Lane on social media, which is Talk Sports of Lane. We got More for Your Money, who is More for Your Money. And myself, Jacob Moore, sports analyst.
Chazzy does have LinkedIn, and it's an amazing LinkedIn profile. So definitely check that out.
So follow Chazzy on
That's LinkedIn I know.
Or just follow Chazzy in general. I bet he has a fascinating day. But thank you very much for watching the podcast.
Don't stalk him, though.
Download the Streakers app. You can stalk Chazzy. I don't mind. You're not stalking me. And until next time, I leave you with a oldie but a goodie.
I have a response to Dan's comments about Joseph Woll. We ready? You know we could go and blame Johnny T. Mitch Marner looks so bad, invisible to you and me. Austin Matthews can't score if he needed to be on the ice now. So Danny, who will you go out and blame? Let's see. After all, let's go blame Joseph Woll.